The text message glowed on Lena's phone at 11:47 p.m., sitting forgotten on our kitchen counter while she was supposedly at another girls' night out. I wasn't snooping. The damn thing kept buzzing while I was grabbing a beer from the fridge. "I'm not your property. I'll be late. Don't call." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at those words, my Budweiser growing warm in my hand. Eric Harper, 38 years old, construction project manager, married for 12 years to a woman who apparently thought I was keeping her in chains. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for her BMW, her yoga classes, and her expensive dinners with friends who looked at me like I was something they'd scraped off their designer shoes. But here's the thing about being married to someone for over a decade. You develop a sixth sense about their bullshit. And Lena's bullshit detector had been going off for months. I picked up her phone. No passcode. She'd always claimed she had nothing to hide. The message thread showed a name I recognized. Ethan Clark, her colleague and supposed best friend from the marketing firm where she worked. The same Ethan who'd been to our house for dinner parties, who'd shaken my hand and complimented my grilling while apparently planning to screw my wife. The conversation history made my stomach turn. Weeks of flirty messages, late-night meetups, and plans that definitely didn't involve Sophie or any other girlfriends. The most recent exchange was from earlier that evening. Ethan, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place?" Lena. "Eric's working late again. Perfect timing." Ethan. "He has no idea how lucky he is." Lena. "Lucky? More like clueless. I'm not his property anymore." I sat down heavily at our kitchen table, the one we'd picked out together at IKEA during our first year of marriage when we were broke and happy. My hands were shaking, not from anger yet, but from the surreal feeling of watching your life implode in real time. The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was the casual dismissal, the way she talked about me like I was some controlling monster when all I'd ever done was work myself to death, trying to give her the life she wanted. I scrolled further back. Months of this. Planning, scheming, laughing at my expense. References to my boring job, my predictable routines, my small dreams. This from a woman who couldn't change a light bulb without calling me home from work. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena's number. "Working late with the girls. Don't wait up." I looked at her phone in my other hand, then back at mine. The audacity was breathtaking. That's when something cold and calculating settled into my chest. Not rage, that would come later. This was something more dangerous. Clarity. I typed back, "I'm not your husband anymore, don't come back." Then I turned off her phone and poured myself another beer. Within 10 minutes, my phone started ringing. 23 missed calls in the first hour. I ignored every single one. Lena came home at 2:17 a.m. I know because I was sitting in my recliner in the dark living room, watching her through our Ring doorbell app as she fumbled with her keys. She looked disheveled, panicked, and thoroughly screwed. I'd spent the last few hours being productive. Changed the locks. Thank God for having contractor friends who owed me favors. Packed her essential items into garbage bags and left them by the front door. Canceled her credit cards, all in my name, of course, and I'd done some research. Ethan Clark, 33, divorced 6 months ago, living in a luxury apartment complex downtown. His ex-wife had cited emotional abandonment in the divorce papers, which were public record. Interesting reading. Apparently, Ethan had a pattern of screwing around with colleagues. When Lena finally got inside using the garage code I hadn't changed yet, she found me waiting. "Eric? What the hell is wrong with you? Why didn't you answer your phone?" She looked genuinely confused, like she couldn't fathom why her husband might be upset about her affair. The gaslighting was already starting. "Sit down, Lena. Don't tell me what to do. I've been worried sick. Sophie said you sent some crazy text. Sit down." Something in my voice made her freeze. I'd never used that tone before, not in 12 years of marriage. It was the voice I used on job sites when someone was about to get hurt if they didn't listen. She sat. I held up her phone. Interesting reading. The color drained from her face, but she rallied quickly. You went through my phone? How dare you violate my privacy? Eric's working late again. Perfect timing. I read directly from the screen. He has no idea how lucky he is. Should I keep going, or do you want to tell me about your book club with Ethan? Silence. Then, it's not what you think. Really? Because I think you've been screwing your coworker for months while I've been busting my ass to pay for your lifestyle. I think you've been lying to my face every time you kissed me goodbye. And I think you're about to tell me it's somehow my fault. Eric, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you're not my property? You're absolutely right. Property has value. That hit home. Her face crumpled, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered. We just connected, and you've been so distant lately, working all the time. There it is, my fault. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our manicured suburban street. Tell me something, Lena. When exactly did I become the villain in your story? When I took that promotion to pay for your car? When I worked weekends to afford this house? When I missed dinner with friends so you could have your spa days? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been having this conversation before you decided to audition replacements. I turned back to her. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. A year ago, those tears would have destroyed me. Now they just looked like manipulation. Your bags are by the door. I assume Ethan has a couch. Eric, please. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. What I want is for you to leave. What I want is to never have to wonder if my wife is lying to my face again. What I want is to not feel like a fool for trusting you. She stood up, anger replacing the tears. Fine. You want to throw away 12 years over a mistake? Fine. But don't expect me to beg. I wouldn't dream of it. You're not my property, remember? She grabbed her bags and headed for the door, then turned back. You'll regret this, Eric. When you're sitting alone in this house, you'll realize what you lost. Maybe, but at least I'll know where I stand. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and finished my beer. The silence was deafening, but it was honest silence. For the first time in months, I wasn't wondering what Lena was really doing or who she was really with. My phone buzzed, a text from my buddy Paulie. Heard through the grapevine. You okay, man? Small towns. News traveled fast, especially bad news. I texted back, better than okay. Free beer if you want to hear the story. 20 minutes later, Paulie was on my couch with a six-pack, listening to the whole sordid tale. Paulie Torino, ex-bouncer turned electrician, had been my friend since high school. He'd never liked Lena, said she had expensive taste and cheap loyalty. Turned out he was right. So what's the plan? He asked after I finished. Plan? Come on, Eric, I've known you since we were kids. You've got that look. What look? The same look you had before you put Jimmy Kowalski through the gym wall for talking shit about your mom. I smiled for the first time in hours. I'm a respectable married man, Paulie. I don't have plans for revenge. Married? Didn't you just kick your wife out? Good point. I'm a respectable divorced man. Not yet, you're not. And that's where this gets interesting. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called in sick to work. Not because I was actually sick, but because I had research to do. And the first stop was Mrs. Grafton next door. Eleanor Grafton was 72 years old, widowed, and the unofficial intelligence network for our entire neighborhood. She knew who was cheating, who was broke, and who was getting divorced before the people involved knew it themselves. I'd always been polite to her, helped with her groceries, shoveled her walk in winter. Time to cash in those good neighbor points. "Eric, dear, how are you holding up?" she asked before I even knocked. She'd been watching through her kitchen window, of course. "Been better, Mrs. G. Mind if I come in? I could use some of your famous coffee." Her kitchen was exactly what you'd expect. Doilies, ceramic roosters, and the smell of fresh-baked cookies. She poured coffee into china cups that probably cost more than my work boots. "I suppose you want to know about the blue BMW," she said without preamble. "Blue BMW?" Every Thursday for the past 2 months, sometimes Tuesdays. Young man, very handsome, expensive clothes. He'd park in your driveway around noon, leave by 3. My jaw clenched. Thursdays were when I had standing meetings with the city planning office. Lena knew my schedule better than I did. "Did you ever see them together?" "Oh, honey." Mrs. Grafton's face was sympathetic, but her eyes were sharp with gossip hound excitement. "I saw them through your living room window once. They weren't playing Scrabble." "Jesus. I almost called you, but Harold, God rest his soul, he always said marriage troubles were between husband and wife. I should have called." "It's not your fault, Mrs. G, but I appreciate you telling me now." "There's more." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "I heard them arguing once about 2 weeks ago. Something about his ex-wife and lawyers. The young man seemed very upset." Interesting. Ethan's divorce had been finalized recently, which meant he was probably paying alimony. A man with financial pressure and a taste for other people's wives. This was getting better and better. "Mrs. Grafton, if anyone asks, we never had this conversation." "What conversation?" She winked. From there, I drove to Murphy's pub downtown, the place where Lena claimed to have her girls' nights. Murphy's was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and bartenders had better memories than FBI agents. "Eric Harper!" Danny Murphy himself was behind the bar, a guy I'd gone to high school with. "Haven't seen you in forever. Where's that gorgeous wife of yours?" "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about, Danny, privately." We moved to the back office, and I explained the situation. Danny's face went from sympathetic to angry to calculating. "That's messed up, man. But yeah, I've seen her. Not with girls, though. Same guy every time. Real smooth operator type. They sit in the corner booth, very cozy." "How often?" "Weekly, maybe more. Always pays cash, big tipper. I remember because most people use cards now." Smart. No credit card trail for the wife to find. Ethan was more careful than I'd given him credit for. "Danny, I need a favor." "Name it." "Next time they come in, give me a call. Don't make it obvious, just let me know." "You got it. And Eric, for what it's worth, you deserve better." The afternoon was spent doing more reconnaissance. I drove by Ethan's apartment complex, a gleaming high-rise with underground parking and a doorman. Definitely out of my price range, but then again, I wasn't paying alimony to an ex-wife. I also swung by Lena's office building. She worked for DePrisco Marketing, a mid-sized firm that specialized in corporate consulting. Through the lobby windows, I could see her at her desk, looking perfectly normal, like she hadn't just blown up her marriage the night before. That evening, Paulie came over with Chinese takeout and more beer. "So what's the intelligence report?" he asked, settling into Lena's favorite chair with obvious satisfaction. I filled him in on everything I'd learned. Paulie listened, occasionally grunting approval or shaking his head in disgust. "Okay, so they've been screwing around for months, he's got money problems, and they're not as careful as they think. What's the move?" "I'm not sure yet, but I keep thinking about something my dad used to say." "What's that?" "The best revenge is living well." "But you know what? Sometimes the best revenge is making sure the other guy doesn't." Paulie grinned. "Now you're talking my language." My phone buzzed. Text from Lena. "I'm staying at Sophie's. We need to talk about dividing assets." I showed Paulie the message. He snorted. Assets? What assets? You paid for everything. I typed back, talk to my lawyer. Then I added, hope Sophie has a comfortable couch. You don't have a lawyer, Polly pointed out. I will by tomorrow morning. The lawyer's name was Rebecca Martinez, and she came highly recommended by my contractor buddy Mike, who'd gone through his own messy divorce 2 years earlier. Her office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, professional but not intimidating. Mr. Harper, I've reviewed the financial documents you provided. This should be fairly straightforward, given that most assets are in your name and there are no children involved. What about the affair? Doesn't that matter? Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, so adultery doesn't directly affect asset division. However, if your wife spent marital funds on the affair, hotels, dinners, gifts, we can potentially recover those. How would we prove that? Credit card statements, bank records, receipts. Do you have access to any joint accounts? I smiled. I have access to everything. She never handled the finances. Perfect. I'll need copies of everything from the past year. And Mr. Harper, document everything going forward. Every interaction, every text message, every phone call. If this gets ugly, and it usually does, you'll want a paper trail. After the lawyer meeting, I spent the afternoon at the bank, getting copies of all our financial records. It was illuminating reading. Hundreds of dollars at expensive restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel charges when I was supposedly out of town for work. Even a charge at Victoria's Secret from last month. Lingerie I'd definitely never seen. The pattern was clear. Lena had been financing her affair with our money. My money, technically, since her salary barely covered her car payment and shopping habits. That evening, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Eric, it's Danny. Your wife and her friend just sat down. Corner booth, same as always. I'll be right there. I threw on a clean shirt and drove downtown, parking across the street from Murphy's. Through the window, I could see them clearly. Lena in a red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Ethan in an expensive suit, holding hands across the table like teenagers. The rage I'd been keeping in check finally bubbled up. Not the hot, explosive kind that makes you do stupid things, but the cold, calculating kind that makes you dangerous. I called Polly. You busy? Never too busy for you, brother. What's up? Feel like having a drink at Murphy's? On my way. Polly arrived 10 minutes later, and we walked in together. I chose a table with a clear view of the corner booth and ordered 2 beers. Lena hadn't noticed me yet. She was too focused on gazing into Ethan's eyes. There they are, I said quietly. Polly looked over and shook his head. Damn, Eric. Right out in the open. They're not even trying to hide it. Why should they? I'm just the dumb husband who works too much to notice. That's when Ethan got up to use the bathroom, walking right past our table. He was even more smug-looking in person, with perfect hair and a watch that probably cost more than I made in a month. As he passed, I stood up abruptly, pretending to stretch, and bumped into him. Oh, sorry about that, I said, steadying him with one hand while accidentally spilling my beer down the front of his shirt with the other. What the hell? Ethan jumped back, looking down at his soaked shirt and tie. Jesus, I'm so sorry. Let me buy you a drink to make up for it. I was all concerned innocence, the clumsy blue-collar guy who didn't know better. Just watch where you're going, Ethan muttered, heading for the bathroom to clean up. I sat back down, and Polly was grinning. Smooth, very smooth. I'm just getting started. When Ethan returned, his shirt was still damp and stained. He said something to Lena, who looked over and finally saw me. Her face went white. Showtime, I said to Polly. I walked over to their table, putting on my best friendly smile. Lena, what a coincidence. And Ethan, right? From your office? Lena looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Ethan, to his credit, tried to play it cool. Eric, good to see you. Sorry about the shirt. Accidents happen. Yeah, I'm really clumsy sometimes. But hey, since we're all here, why don't you join us? I'd love to hear more about what you and Lena have been working on. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Lena spoke. We were just finishing up, actually. Work dinner, you know. Work dinner on a Saturday night? Wow, your company really demands dedication. I looked around the romantic little booth with its candles and wine glasses. Very professional atmosphere. Ethan stood up. We should go, Lena. So soon? But you haven't finished your wine. That's a nice bottle. Camus Cabernet, right? Expensive taste. The company must have a generous entertainment budget. Now Ethan was getting angry. Look, I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm just making conversation with my wife and her colleague. Although I have to say, Ethan, you have excellent taste in restaurants. And jewelry. I pointed to Lena's necklace, one I'd never seen before. That's beautiful, honey. Anniversary gift? Lena's hand flew to her throat. Eric, please. Please what? Please stop embarrassing you in front of your friend. Please pretend I don't know what's going on. Please keep being the stupid husband who pays for everything while you play house with Mr. Expensive Watch here. People were starting to stare. Ethan grabbed Lena's arm. We're leaving. Good idea, I said cheerfully. Drive safe. Oh, and Ethan, next time you're in the neighborhood, feel free to stop by. I'd love to show you around the house, especially the bedroom. They practically ran out of the restaurant. I went back to Paulie, who was laughing so hard he was crying. Dude, that was beautiful. Did you see his face? That was just the opening act, I said, pulling out my phone to take pictures of their wine glasses and the receipt they'd left behind. Now the real fun begins. The next week, I put my plan into action. It started small, little things that would rattle them, but couldn't be traced back to me. Ethan's BMW developed problems. Not serious ones, just annoying ones. Valve stems that mysteriously lost air, requiring frequent trips to the gas station. A shopping cart that happened to roll into his driver's side door in the grocery store parking lot, leaving a nice scratch. Nothing illegal, nothing provable, just the kind of bad luck that makes you paranoid. I also started showing up places where I knew they'd be. The coffee shop near Lena's office, where I'd sit reading the paper and nod politely when she walked in with Ethan. The dry cleaner they both used, where I'd strike up friendly conversations with the staff about the nice couple who came in together. Oh, you know them too? The elderly Korean woman behind the counter said when I mentioned Ethan and Lena. Very nice couple. Together long time? Oh yes, I said with a smile. They're very close. The psychological pressure was working. Lena started calling, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. Eric, what are you doing? People are talking. Mrs. Patterson from my office saw you at Starbucks yesterday. This has to stop. Eric, I know you're angry, but this is harassment. I'll call the police. Eric, please, we need to handle this like adults. I didn't return any of the calls, but I saved every voicemail. Like Rebecca Martinez had said, document everything. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Amber Reeves, Ethan's ex-wife. She contacted me through Facebook after hearing about the situation through mutual acquaintances. We should meet, her message said. I think we can help each other. We met at a diner outside of town, neutral territory where neither of us was likely to run into anyone we knew. Amber was attractive in a tired way, like someone who'd been through a war and survived. He did the same thing to me, she said without preamble. Affair with a co-worker while I was working 2 jobs to support his consulting business. When I found out, he made me feel like it was my fault for not being supportive enough. How long did it go on? 6 months that I knew about, probably longer. She stirred her coffee absently. The worst part was how stupid I felt. All the signs were there, but I kept making excuses for him. What made you finally leave? I hired a private investigator. Got photos, credit card records, the whole thing. When I confronted him with evidence, he still tried to lie. That's when I knew he'd never change. Do you still have the PI's information? She smiled grimly. I thought you might ask that. His name is Tony Castellano. He's expensive but thorough. And Eric? He hates cheaters almost as much as we do. Tony Castellano looked exactly like you'd expect a private investigator to look. Rumpled suit, 5 o'clock shadow at noon, and eyes that had seen too much. His office was above a pizza place in the old part of town. Adultery case? He asked after I explained the situation. Divorce case. I need documentation from my lawyer. Same thing, different paperwork. My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. How long do you want me on this? However long it takes to get what I need. Fair enough. I'll need photos of both subjects and their usual haunts. This shouldn't take long. Most cheaters are creatures of habit. He was right. Within a week, Tony had enough evidence to bury them both. Photos of them entering and leaving hotels, credit card receipts, even audio recordings of their conversations in public places. The most damaging was a recording from the hotel bar where Ethan was bragging to another man about his upgrade from his ex-wife. The new one's got more class, Ethan's voice was clear on the recording. Better looking, better in bed, and she's married so there's no pressure for commitment. Perfect situation. Listening to that recording, I felt something die inside me. Not love, that had died the night I found the text messages. This was the death of any possibility of forgiveness or reconciliation. Lena wasn't just cheating on me, she was a joke to them. I called Rebecca Martinez and scheduled an emergency meeting. This is excellent work, she said, reviewing Tony's file. More than enough for the divorce proceedings. But Eric, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Do you want to just end the marriage, or are you looking for something more? What do you mean? I mean, with evidence like this, we could pursue alienation of affection charges against Mr. Clark. It's rarely done, but it's still legal in Massachusetts. We could potentially sue him for damages to your marriage. How much are we talking about? Hard to say. Depends on the judge and jury. But given his apparent wealth and the flagrant nature of the affair, it could be substantial, enough to make him think twice about his next conquest. I thought about Ethan's smug face, his expensive clothes, his casual dismissal of my marriage as an upgrade. Do it. Sue them both. Both? Lena knew exactly what she was doing. She spent my money on her affair, she lied to my face for months, and she made me look like a fool in front of the entire town. I want her to pay for that. Rebecca smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't entirely professional. Now you're thinking like someone who's tired of being taken advantage of. Let's make them both pay. The lawsuit papers were served on a Friday afternoon, simultaneously to both Lena at her office and Ethan at his apartment. I wasn't there to see it, but Paulie had a friend who worked security at Lena's building, and the description was satisfying. She turned white as a sheet, he reported, started crying right there in the lobby. Her boss had to help her to her office. Ethan's reaction was more dramatic. According to the doorman at his building, he threw the papers down and started screaming about harassment and false accusations. The doorman had to threaten to call security to get him to calm down. Within an hour, my phone was ringing constantly. Lena, Ethan, Sophie, even Lena's mother from Florida. I let them all go to voicemail and went out for dinner with Paulie to celebrate. So, what's the lawsuit for exactly? Paulie asked over steaks at our favorite restaurant. Alienation of affection, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conversion of marital assets. In plain English, I'm suing them for wrecking my marriage, causing me mental anguish, and stealing my money to fund their affair. Can you actually win? Rebecca thinks so. The evidence is overwhelming, and Ethan's got deep pockets. Even if we don't get everything we're asking for, it'll cost him more in legal fees than he probably spent on his divorce. And Lena? Lena's about to discover that actions have consequences, something she apparently never learned growing up. The next morning, Lena was waiting in my driveway when I got back from my morning run. She looked terrible, no makeup, wrinkled clothes, like she hadn't slept in days. Eric, we need to talk. No, we don't. Talk to my lawyer. This lawsuit is insane. You can't sue people for falling in love. I stopped stretching and looked at her directly for the first time in weeks. Falling in love? Is that what you call screwing your coworker in hotel rooms while your husband pays for it? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I have the credit card statements, Lena. I have the hotel receipts. I have recordings of your boyfriend bragging about his upgrade from his ex-wife. You want to call that love? Fine, but love doesn't give you the right to steal from me. I never stole anything. I pulled out my phone and started reading from Tony's report. March 15th, dinner at Chez Laurent. $237 on our joint credit card. March 22nd, 2 nights at the Marriott downtown, $418. April 3rd, jewelry purchase at Tiffany's, $852. Should I keep going? She was crying now, ugly tears that smeared her mascara and made her look older. I'll pay you back, every penny. Just drop the lawsuit. With what money? Your salary barely covers your car payment. Ethan will what? Ethan's about to be fighting for his own financial life. You think he's going to bail you out? The truth of that hit her like a physical blow. She actually staggered. Eric, please, I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work it out. There is no we anymore, Lena. There hasn't been for months. You made sure of that when you decided I wasn't worth being faithful to. But 12 years. 12 years that you threw away for what? For some smooth-talking asshole who sees you as a temporary convenience? For someone who brags about you to strangers in bars like you're a trophy he won? Her face crumpled. He said he loved me. And you believed him, even though he cheated on his wife with you, even though he's still married when you started screwing him. You actually believed that a man who would betray his own wife wouldn't betray you too. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored with your boring husband and his boring job and his boring life. You wanted excitement, romance, someone who made you feel special. And when you found it, you decided you were entitled to it, regardless of who got hurt. I started walking toward the house, then turned back. You know what the really sad part is, Lena? If you'd just asked for a divorce, I would have given it to you. We could have split everything fairly, stayed friends, moved on with our lives, but you were too selfish and too cowardly to be honest. You wanted to keep your comfortable life while you shopped for a replacement. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you deserved. I left her crying in the driveway and went inside to shower. When I came out, she was gone, but there was a note on my windshield. This isn't over. She was right about that, but not in the way she thought. The trial was set for 6 weeks later, but things started unraveling for Lena and Ethan long before we got to court. Word of the lawsuit spread through their office like wildfire, and suddenly their secret relationship was the hottest gossip in town. DePrisco Marketing had a strict policy about relationships between employees, especially when one party was married to someone else. Within a week of the lawsuit being filed, both Lena and Ethan were called into HR for questioning. They suspended them both pending an internal investigation, Sophie told me when she called, apparently thinking she was helping her friend. Lena's devastated. She might lose her job over this. That's unfortunate, I said, not feeling unfortunate about it at all. Eric, can't you just drop this? You're destroying her life. I'm not destroying anything, Sophie. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth about what she did. If that destroys her life, maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to cheat. But she loves him. She loves him so much that she lied to him too. Did you know she told Ethan I was abusive? That I controlled her money and isolated her from her friends? Tony Castellano has it all on tape. Silence on the other end of the line. She had to tell him something, Sophie said finally, to justify what they were doing. Right. So she made me the villain in her story, the controlling husband who forced her to seek comfort elsewhere. Except I have bank records showing that I gave her complete access to our accounts. I have witness statements from friends and neighbors about how I supported her career and social life. The only thing I ever controlled was my own paycheck, which apparently wasn't enough for her. Sophie hung up without another word. An hour later, Lena called. You told Sophie about the recordings? I told Sophie the truth, something you apparently have trouble with. Those recordings are private conversations. Those recordings are evidence of fraud and defamation. You told your boyfriend I was abusive to justify your affair. You slandered my character to make yourself feel better about being a cheater. I never said you hit me. No, you just implied that I was emotionally abusive and controlling. Do you have any idea what that does to a man's reputation? Do you know what people think when they hear that? Eric, I'm adding defamation to the lawsuit. My lawyer says it's a slam dunk, especially with the recordings. The call ended with her screaming obscenities that I'd never heard her use before. I saved the voicemail. 3 days later, Ethan showed up at my house. I was in the garage working on my truck when he walked up the driveway, trying to look confident, but failing. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. This lawsuit is ridiculous. You can't prove I knew she was married when we started dating. I looked up from under the hood. Dating? Is that what you call it? We're in love, Eric. I know that's hard for you to accept, but you're in love? I laughed. With a woman who's still married to someone else? With a woman who lies to everyone, including you? She only lied because she was trapped in a loveless marriage. Loveless marriage? I put down my wrench and faced him directly. Is that what she told you? That we were loveless? She said you hadn't been intimate in months, that you treated her like a roommate. We had sex the morning before I found out about you. His face went pale. She came home from one of your hotel dates and screwed her husband. How's that for love, Romeo? You're lying. Am I? Check the credit card records. She was with you on Tuesday night, March 21st. Wednesday morning, she initiated sex with me. I remember because she was unusually enthusiastic. I thought she was trying to reconnect with our marriage. Turns out she was just feeling guilty. Ethan looked like he was going to be sick. You want to know what your girlfriend really thinks about you? I continued. She told Sophie that you're adequate in bed but boring to talk to. She said the only reason she's with you is because you have money and you're not me. That's not true. Sophie recorded the conversation. She was worried about Lena and wanted evidence in case things went bad. Turns out Sophie's not as loyal as Lena thought. That was a lie, but Ethan didn't know that. The doubt in his eyes was worth it. Even if that's true, I still love her. No, you don't. You love the idea of her. You love having someone else's wife choose you over her husband. It makes you feel powerful, like you won some kind of contest. But you don't know her at all. I know her better than you do. Really? Do you know she's been stealing money from our joint account to pay for your dates? Do you know she's been lying to her friends about where she goes when she's with you? Do you know she told me she was thinking about leaving you for someone with more money? Each lie hit him like a physical blow. By the time I was done, he looked defeated. Why are you doing this? He asked. Because you destroyed my marriage and made me look like a fool. Because you took something that belonged to me and treated it like a toy. Because you're a selfish piece of shit who thinks other people's lives are your playground. She's not property. No, she's not. But trust is. Respect is. And you stole both of those from me. So now I'm going to take something from you. What? Everything. He left without another word. That night, Lena called crying. What did you say to Ethan? He won't return my calls. I told him the truth about you. What truth? That you're a liar, a cheater, and a user. That you don't love him any more than you loved me. That you're just using him until something better comes along. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you paid for one of your dates? When was the last time you did something for him that didn't benefit you? When was the last time you told him the truth about anything? Silence. He loves me, she said finally. No, he doesn't. He loves the fantasy you sold him. Just like I loved the fantasy you sold me for 12 years. The difference is, now he knows it's a fantasy. Eric, please. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want. I'll give up any claim to the house. I'll disappear from your life forever. Just drop the lawsuit. Too late for that, Lena. You made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. The trial lasted 3 days and was everything I'd hoped for. Rebecca Martinez was ruthless, presenting evidence of the affair with the precision of a surgeon and the theatricality of a prosecutor. The photos, the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the recordings, it all painted a picture of two people who had callously destroyed a marriage for their own selfish pleasure. Lena's lawyer tried to argue that the marriage was already over, that she and Ethan had simply found love in an unfortunate situation. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury saw through her lies in less than an hour. The most damaging testimony came from Sophie, who had been subpoenaed and forced to testify about her conversations with Lena. Under oath, she admitted that Lena had bragged about manipulating both men, that she had called me stupid and gullible, and that she had planned to divorce me only after she was sure Ethan would marry her. She said Eric was like a safety net, Sophie testified, looking miserable. She could take risks because she knew he'd always be there to catch her if she fell. Ethan's testimony was even worse. Confronted with evidence of his boasting and his casual dismissal of my marriage, he tried to claim he'd been joking, but the recordings were clear, and his arrogance came through loud and clear. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and awarded me everything I'd asked for. $200,000 from Ethan for alienation of affection, $50,000 from Lena for conversion of marital assets, and another $100,000 in punitive damages to be split between them. But the money wasn't the real victory. The real victory was watching them realize that their actions had consequences, that they couldn't just take what they wanted without paying for it. After the verdict, I found them both in the courthouse hallway. Lena was crying, and Ethan looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "I hope you're happy," Lena said. "I'm satisfied," I replied. "There's a difference. This won't bring back our marriage." "I don't want our marriage back, Lena. I want my self-respect back. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror without seeing a fool. And now I can." Ethan stepped forward. "You've destroyed us both over a marriage that was already dead." "No, I held you accountable for destroying a marriage that could have been saved. If Lena had been honest about her feelings, if she'd asked for a divorce instead of cheating, we could have ended things civilly. But she chose to lie and cheat and steal, and you chose to help her. Now you both get to live with the consequences." "The money won't make you happy," Lena said. "Maybe not, but it'll make you both miserable, and that's good enough for me." 6 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Lena and Ethan had broken up. The stress of the lawsuit, the loss of their jobs, and the financial strain had been too much for their love to survive. Lena had moved back in with her parents in Florida, and Ethan had declared bankruptcy. I, meanwhile, had used the settlement money to start my own construction company. Harper Construction was small but growing, and for the first time in years, I was working for myself instead of making someone else rich. Mrs. Grafton brought me cookies to celebrate the grand opening of my new office. "You know, Eric, I always thought that girl was too good for you," she said. "Turns out I was wrong. You were too good for her." "Thanks, Mrs. G. Are you dating anyone new?" "Not yet. I'm still learning to trust my own judgment again." "Smart man. Take your time. The right woman will appreciate what you've been through." That evening, I sat on my back deck with a beer, looking out at the yard I'd landscaped, the house I'd renovated, the life I'd built. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was honest. It was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy now." I deleted it without responding. Some conversations weren't worth having. I was happy, or at least content. I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't living well. It's making sure the people who wronged you face the consequences of their actions. I'd learned that trust, once broken, can't be repaired with apologies and promises. And I'd learned that sometimes the end of something terrible is the beginning of something better. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, with no one to lie to, and no one lying to me. For the first time in months, I didn't check my phone first thing. I didn't wonder where someone else was or what they were doing. I just got up and started my day, free from the weight of a marriage that had been dead long before I buried it.